Today we are going to be doing Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, text 27, contents of the Gita summarized. Prabhuji, we usually start with Mangalacharan and then we read the text and then the word to word and then translation and purport. But I'm handing it over to you, Prabhuji. We start and I'm recording this session, if you don't mind.
Hare Krishna, Kirtika Mataji and all the devotees from ISKCON Eldoret. Please accept my humble obeisances. I'm very happy to see all of you. Some very old school devotees like Mayur Prabhu, who is from Nairobi, and His Grace Ramrup Prabhu also, who was here for some time. And thank you very much for coming. As Kirtika Mataji said, I'm from Nairobi originally, and I normally deal with students, and that is my passion. And I've been lecturing in different universities, and we also run what we call the training center. But the real glories go to all of you because all of you read the Bhagavad Gita daily. So I feel at this time of this pandemic, all of you devotees are actually taking the good opportunity to learn the Bhagavad Gita. So before we start, we'll just recite the Mangala Charana, and we'll be reading from the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. And I'll be reciting the Mangala Charana in a different tune, not normally to the one that you're used to. So if you know it, you can follow it. Otherwise, you can just, try and repeat after me or come with me together.
Prabhuji, we are all muted, so if you don't hear us, it is okay. Yes, we are still with you.
Okay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurul Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Navaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushute Devi Pramamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today evening, and for me here in Mayapur, India, it's today night. So it's the electricity is fluctuating a little bit, but hopefully the internet will remain so that we can have a small discussion on this verse. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 27. And can you allow me to share the screen? Kirtika Mataji, if you don't mind, do you know how to change the setting?
Yes.
Just allow me to share the screen, and then I can even just share the screen with the verse together.
Has the icon come? You are now a co-host.
It's okay now, yeah. Okay, so we are sharing the screen here. This is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 27. So I will just read the Sanskrit, and Kirtika Mataji, because you are on mute, you can repeat after me. Jatasya hi dhruva mrityu
jatasya hi dhruva mitra
dhruvam janma mritasya cha
dhruvam janma mritasya tva
tasmad aparihare arte
tasmad aparihare rate
natam sochitam arhasi.
na tvam sochitam arhasi.
So we'll just go directly to the word-to-word translation, and we'll also read the purport. Translation. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Now, this is a very important verse, and I feel that we should repeat the translation if you don't mind. Kirtika Mataji, you can repeat with me. One who has taken his birth
One who has taken his birth
is sure to die,
is sure to die,
and after death,
and after death,
one is sure to take birth again.
one is sure to take birth again.
Therefore,
in
the unavoidable discharge of your duty,
in the unavoidable discharge of your duty,
you should not lament.
You should not lament.
Purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Purport. One has to take birth according to one's activities of life. And after finishing one terms of activity, one has to die to take birth for the next. In this way, one is going through one cycle of birth and death after another without liberation. The cycle of birth and death does not, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors in human society for keeping law and order. The Battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event, and to fight for the right cause is the duty of a Kshatriya. Why should Arjuna be afraid of or aggrieved at the death of his relatives, since he was discharging his proper duty? He does not deserve to break the law, thereby becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts, of which he was so afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
So that was the end of the purport. And it's a very important point actually here mentioned in this verse that we are going to be speaking about. So before we go to the verse, we'll just do an overview a little bit about this second chapter and how we have reached this point. So most of us, we know the Mahabharata, but there are 2 points in every Leela of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The 2 points that are there are, one is the point of entertainment, and the second one is the point of enlightenment. Sometimes when we hear the Bhagavad Gita, or when we hear the Ramayana, or when we hear, many other pastimes, then we might think that it is just entertainment. But besides it being entertainment, it is more on the path of enlightenment. And this is the same thing here that is also being taught in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is not the battle of the Mahabharata or the battle of Kurukshetra was not just a battle for entertainment, but rather it was a battle for enlightenment. So sometimes we tend just to focus more on the entertainment side and not on the enlightenment side. And for this, we can see, for Krishna, he chose his best devotee, Arjuna, to show the path of humanity. So we all know the story that the Pandavas, they lost their kingdom and the gambling match, and they went to the forest. And after they came back from the forest, they still wanted, like 5 villages to rule. It is said that because the Pandavas were Kshatriyas, a Kshatriya has to rule someplace. A Kshatriya, he cannot do any other duty besides ruling. And so this request was kept to Duryodhana, that just give each of them small 5 villages. And we have to understand one thing, that time Hastinapur, which is the capital city, you can see, of the world during that time, it was a big, vast area of land. But we can see here the side of Duryodhana, how he is playing it. That he was not ready to part with 5 villages. Duryodhana said, leave about 5 villages. I'm not going to give you space even to put in a pin. Enough land to put even a pin. This is the meaning of when somebody has a lot of, you can say, envy and a lot of greed. When we have a lot of envy and a lot of greed, we don't think about what we have, but we think about how much we can get of the other person. So Duryodhana, he is the perfectionist of an envious person. Just like Arjuna is the best devotee. So there is people like Duryodhana, they are perfectionists of envious people. So Duryodhana, when he said that he could not give land, enough land, or he would not give anything to the Pandavas, then the Pandavas decided the war was inevitable. They had to fight. So Arjuna was determined. Arjuna, one of Arjuna's name is that he's known as Gudakesh. Gudakesh is a warrior who can fight at night. Just like when you go to war at night in today's world, they need a lot of torches, a lot of spotlights. But in Arjuna's time, he was so expert that even when there was no light available, he could shoot the target. This is how Arjuna was. It is said that Arjuna, he was so powerful that he defeated Lord Shiva in battle. And when he defeated Lord Shiva, he was given the arrow, the Pashupatra. Was it the arrow or was it the bow? He was given this weapon, the Pashupatra. So Arjuna was a very strong personality. And so when the war was inevitable at the battlefield of Kurukshetra, an interesting thing happened. Krishna was the charioteer of Arjuna. When Arjuna he came into this battlefield and he saw the two parties. Arjuna told Krishna, this is in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He told Krishna, oh Krishna, can you please take me in the middle of the two armies? I want to see who wants to fight with me. And Krishna was very expert. Krishna, he's the Lord who is sitting within the heart. He already knows what we are already thinking about. So Krishna, he wanted to bring the best in Arjuna, actually. He wanted to bring the best out. And this is the meaning of a friend. The friend is one who really actually wants to bring out your happiness. It is said in Sanskrit, there are 3 types of friends. There is Bandhu, there is Mitra, and there is Suhirt. Bandhu, you can say, is like an official term. Mitra is like a family friend, like not very close friend, but Suhirt, Srila Prabhupada says this in one of his lectures. Suhirt means one who is a friend who always wants to bring the best out of you. So Krishna, he was acting as a Suhirt, the best friend of Arjuna. So what did Krishna do? Krishna, being Yogeshwar, the master of mystics, Krishna drove the chariot into the party of the Kauravas. And he did not just take it in any place. He went and he stood in front of Dronacharya, Kripacharya, and Bhishma, and all these great personalities that Arjuna really respected. Now you can imagine that here we have a great warrior, a very strong personality, who can shoot arrows at night, who fought with the demigods. But when Arjuna saw his teachers, when Arjuna saw his grandfather, Arjuna started shaking. He started shaking, he started quivering. It's like when somebody is almost going to get a stroke, how they shake. Arjuna started shaking like that. And when he was shaking like that, immediately the bow and the arrow that he used to defeat many people, he put the bow down, he put the arrow down, and he told Krishna, I cannot fight. This is just too much for me. But Krishna, he knew why he is doing this. Because the meaning of a friend, as I said, Suhit, is that he wants to bring the best out of us. Sometimes the best doesn't mean it has to be good for us. Just like a doctor, if you're suffering from a terminal disease, let's say you have a terminal disease, and you go to a doctor who is a friend, and the doctor, he doesn't want to tell you the truth. The doctor just says, no, maybe you just have a small flu, or you have a small boil, it's going to go away. That doctor is not your friend. That doctor is not doing his duty. But Krishna was not like that. Krishna wanted to bring out the best in Arjuna. And therefore Krishna, he took him to his weakest point. And why did Krishna do this? Because Krishna loves his devotee. A friend, a Suhit, is one who really, really loves you. He wants to bring out the best in you. And we see many times, even in our own life, Krishna does this. When Krishna wants to test somebody, Krishna is not going to test you where you are weak. Because he knows if you test him where he is weak, naturally he's going to, he wants to see. Basically, Krishna wants to see, is that weakness of yours, have you overcome it? Or in the trying situation of the weakness that you have, how are you going to act? If Krishna is testing you where you're strong, that is not a test. If somebody has controlled himself from eating, and you say, I want to test this person by giving him so much food, that is not a test. So many times Krishna has arranged in our life by really testing us in the place that we really have a lot of, you can say, attraction or a lot of attachment. Like so many times we see, we might be attracted to wealth, and something just happens wrong and the economy falls down and we've lost a lot of money. Krishna is testing us. Or else we have a very dear person, and this dear person, we're so much attached to him, and even without thinking, something happens and Krishna takes away that person. Because Krishna wants to make us stronger. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is such that even if he tests us, we will come out successful if we are sincere. So then when Arjuna, he kept down his bow and he started speaking all these reasons that he can't fight with his superiors, he can't fight with his teachers, he doesn't basically want to fight, and there's going to be so much harm that is going to be created. And Arjuna gave so many good reasons. It is said that the reasons that Arjuna gave, if somebody was to give us the same reasons, we would keep quiet. But when Arjuna was speaking, Krishna was just listening. And here Krishna is teaching us about patience. Sometimes when somebody comes, when he's frustrated, when someone is upset, all they want you to do is just hear. Just hear. And just by hearing, if you just hear what that person is going to offload, that is 50% of the problem is already taken away. Normally, we have this thing when someone wants to speak, immediately we want to interrupt. But Krishna didn't start speaking. In the whole first chapter, Krishna didn't speak anything. He was just basically hearing Arjuna up to, you can say, the second chapter, which is verse number 11. And at that time, Arjuna, he became confused. And he told Krishna, now you have to instruct me. You have to instruct me now, because it's just too much for me. And it's very amazing when if you see the discourse of the Bhagavad Gita, how it's going on. It's very interesting that when Krishna starts speaking, he doesn't butter his disciple. He immediately says that, "Oh Arjuna, although you are speaking learned words, you are just behaving like a fool." And this is the meaning of a friend. The meaning of a friend is that when we are wrong, they will tell us. Normally, we just want to accept friends that when we are wrong, we expect that they won't tell us the truth. That this type of friends, they'll just butter us, or the friends will, give us a solution. But Krishna was not such a friend. Krishna told Arjuna, "Asochan anavasochas tvam pragyam vadam bhasase." This is on the 11th verse of the 2nd chapter. And he tells Arjuna, "You are speaking learned words, although you are behaving just like a fool. You do not know what is the meaning of living or dead. You do not know what is the meaning of what is being learned." He chastised Arjuna. And then Krishna started speaking after hearing Arjuna patiently. And the first 30 verses of the 2nd chapter, Krishna speaks about the enlightenment of the soul. That Arjuna has to do his duty as a Kshatriya in the battlefield, which is to fight. And that even if he kills his relatives, the soul is eternal and he is not killing anyone. So coming to today's verse, there is a very interesting thing in this verse today. And the word is in the translation, in the word-to-word translation, which is said dhruvam. If you see the word dhruvam, dhruvam means fact. And it is written twice actually. The word dhruvam is coming twice. The first one, jatasya hi dhruvo, which means dhruvam. And the second line, dhruvam janma mritisya cha. And the translation, word-to-word translation is dhruva, fact. Dhruvam, it is also a fact. So Krishna is giving us two facts. And what is that? As sure as death. It's a fact. We can't run away from it. This is about a prediction. So when this coronavirus pandemic started, people were sending so many predictions. That was predicted in a book. It was predicted here and there. It was predicted by, Nostradamus. It was predicted so many ways. But never a time we see our devotees predicting this thing that Krishna already predicted before. Krishna predicted about death 5,000 years ago, about birth and death 5,000 years ago. But never a time we see our devotees sending this. Oh, this was already predicted by Krishna. Why? Because we are very fearful. So Krishna's prediction is something that is reality. That we are going to be living and that we are going to be dying. One who has taken his birth is sure to die. And after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Basically, one who is born is going to die. So many times as devotees, as practicing devotees, we see this thing. That people are living, people are dying. People are being born, people are growing, people are dying. But when we see these phases of life, there is actually something that we can learn. And what is that thing that we can learn from it? That life is very short, that life is temporary, that we have a duty to perform. However, it is said there are three types of people. And this is given as an example of an alarm clock. The three types of people who respond to an alarm clock. When the alarm rings, when you're sleeping in the morning, the first person is one who will snooze it. snooze it 5 minutes, again you snooze another 5 minutes, another 5 minutes. Before, this snooze button never used to be there. I wish it was there, this snooze button was there when we were going to school. When we were young as teenagers, the snooze button was not there. It's either you wake up or you don't wake up. But I think so in the age of Kali Yuga, as this is progressing, more comfort is coming. So the first person is one who snoozes. He snoozes 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. The second person is one who ignores it completely. The second type of person. It just rings and keeps on ringing. He doesn't bother. Or he just ignores it. So he just switches it off and just ignores it. The second type of person. And the third type of person is one when he hears this alarm, he knows his duty. Immediately he wakes up and he knows what he's supposed to do. So verses of the Bhagavad Gita like this are also meant for us to reflect in our life and see in which class do we belong to. Do we belong in the class where we're just snoozing the instructions? We know the instructions, we've heard the instructions. Some of us know these instructions by heart. We can recite this whole Bhagavad Gita by heart, like a parrot. We can recite this verses, Jatasya hi dhruva mrityu, dhruvam janma mrityasya. We can recite them. But are we just snoozing it, the instruction? Or else, are we the person who knows? We see somebody passing away, or we see somebody being born, or we see someone going through suffering, and we see it and we just tend to ignore it? Or are we the person who, when we see this instruction of Krishna, or we hear this instruction of Krishna, we actually wake up and think, what is it that I'm supposed to do? So these three types of people will always exist. One who hears the instruction and he snoozes it. He procrastinates it. Think, I will do it when the right time comes. Two, the person who ignores the instruction. And the third person, the best of all, is the one who picks up the instruction and takes it up to his heart. So people have been dying many times. One time, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples had cancer. His name was Nirnasha. Nirnasha was Prabhupada's disciple in the 70s, early 70s. And so he had a very big terminal disease. He had this cancer. He was just going to live for another 3 months. So his parents came to the temple and they requested their son. The doctors have seen your reports and they say that if you take the medication, you can live 2 months extra. Just 2 months extra. But we think so it is worth a try. So when this disciple went to Prabhupada, and some of the other disciples went to Srila Prabhupada to inform him, they said that Srila Prabhupada, Nirnasha's parents are saying that if he starts taking medication, he can live a normal life. He can live 2 months extra as a normal life. And then Srila Prabhupada remarked, normal life? Normal life means a life without death. Prabhupada said this. Normal life is a life without death. This is the meaning of actually life. If we see, if life is really short, it's like, you know, we are in a position that any time we can be called away from this place. So, and then at the same time, we are trying to think that we are comfortable. It's like an example is given of a story of a villager who was walking through the forest. And when he was walking through the forest, he fell into a pit, a big pit. And as he was falling down, there were 2 roots on the 2 sides of that pit, which was like a well. And he held these roots of these trees, these small shrubs. And down, when he saw down in the pit, in the deep well, there were snakes. On the top, when he saw, there was a tiger that was like waiting. If he comes out, he's going to eat. And when he was just lying in this small well, in this pit, there was a tree with the drops of honey falling down. And the honey was dropping on his nose, and the honey was coming down into his tongue. There's a tiger waiting for him. There are snakes underneath. And the honey drops are just dropping down. And he's tasting this honey. And what is this person thinking? Oh, life isn't so bad after all. At least I'm getting to taste some honey. Life isn't so bad after all. I can still taste some honey. This is what we call a first-class fool. Who think that in this bad bargain that we have, in this life, this bad bargain that we're having, that we're just tasting some little bit nectar, some little bit honey, in the form of, you can say, opulence, in the form of sense gratification. And we're thinking, oh, life is so good. Life is still sweet. And therefore, we can see that the Bhagavad Gita is about two types of consciousness. One is called the Asura consciousness, and the second one is called the Sura consciousness. Asura consciousness is the part being played by Duryodhana and his team. And the Sura consciousness, the consciousness of the demigods, is that which is playing by Arjuna. Arjuna was already enlightened, but Krishna is speaking this revelation or these instructions for our benefit. And Arjuna is playing the part of the Sura, or you can say the demigod consciousness. Duryodhana, he is playing the part of the demon consciousness. And always, we can see in life, we are always perplexed by these two consciousness. Most of the time. Sometimes we want to act in the consciousness of a devotee. Sometimes we want to act in the consciousness of a demon. We are always just battling, sometimes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But 99% of the world, okay, if we take percentages, how many devotees are there in the world? Very few. So at least 99% of the world is in demonic consciousness. And for them, when they hear these verses, they play the part of snoozing it or the part of ignoring it. The demon means he wants to ignore death is there. He wants to ignore suffering, or he wants to snooze it. Even if he goes to he goes and sees people who have died, his consciousness is not, you can say, changed in any way. His consciousness is thinking, oh, I still have so much life to live. Or he has, you can say, regret just for some small time of just, you can say, visiting the crematorium. A small type of, you can say, little bit, he's feeling sorry. So most of us, this demonic consciousness. So one time, I was always hearing about this thing, that how the consciousness of the material world really covers the soul. I'll tell you one personal story. One time I was in Nairobi, in the airport, and I'm telling you, maybe at least 11 or 12 years ago. And when I was sitting in the waiting area at the airport, we were maybe like, you can say 50 or 60 passengers. I was taking a flight to go to Kisumu. And amongst us, there was one person who was sitting in the waiting room. And he was sitting like he's sleeping. But his neck was not moving. His body was not moving. And the plane, the people started boarding. And normally I like boarding last, so that I can see which seat is empty, so I can go and sit If I get the front seat, I'll just go and sit there. So most of the passengers had boarded. And just few of us, maybe 3 or 4 of us were left. And this person, he was still sleeping without moving. And people started getting fearful. Even I started getting fearful. Has the person passed away or what has happened? So one official came there and, tried to wake him up, but he couldn't wake up. He was unconscious. He was unconscious state. It was not just unconscious, you can say, while dreaming, but he was really unconscious. So they put him on the floor. They removed his shoes, and they tried. He had a suit and a tie. They tried and loosen it, but still the guy was not conscious. One of the authorities, they removed his boarding pass. He was called Maina. They said, Maina, wake up, your flight is leaving. Still he was not moving. So one of the 4 of us who were standing there, one of them said, Maina, somebody has taken your money. Immediately he jumped and he woke up. Immediately he jumped and he woke up. And he started checking his pockets. At that time I could understand. This is the meaning of having a demonic consciousness. That we are so much interested in just, you can say, opulence of followers or friends. That this is actually our goal in life. For such people, when they hear statements like this of the Bhagavad Gita, that life is short, that the body is changing, that death is going to come, for those people, they don't make any endeavor. They are just like, you can say, animals in human beings, in human bodies. Another example is given in the Purana. At one time there was a businessman. He was a cloth merchant. And he used to sell, you can say, many rolls of fabric. He was bigger than any, you can say, big company. So this person, he was growing old. And his family, they wanted him to get some revelation, some upgraded consciousness. So his sons, they requested one of the sadhus, can you please take our father to different pilgrimage sites? Let him go and let him get some detachment. Let him know what is the purpose of life. So this sadhu and this old man, they started going to pilgrimage places. They went to Mathura, where Krishna was born. The person, he went there, he was just looking, okay, fine. They went to Gaya, they went to Benares, they went to Vrindavan, they went to Ayodhya. This person, he was just looking and, like sightseeing, like how a tourist will go. There was no, you can say, there was no any type of renunciation, or there was no, you can say, anything that he was feeling about. There was nothing that really moved him. So this sadhu started thinking, I have changed many people in my life, but this one is really a hard rock heart. The best place for me to take him is into a crematorium. And I will not take him to an ordinary crematorium. I will take him to a wholesale crematorium. In India, they have places, you can go and you can see maybe one body being burnt. But this sadhu took him to a wholesale, means like maybe 20, 30, 40 bodies being burnt at the same time. The sadhu was thinking, if I take him there, this person, he can get some renunciation of heart. So he took him there. When he took him there, he saw this man, he started crying. And this man is saying, I've wasted my life, I've wasted my life, I've wasted my life. And the sadhu is saying, yes, yes, yes. Now you are coming to the point. Now you are coming to the point. Can you tell me what realization you have got? The sadhu asked this businessman who was a cloth merchant. And this cloth merchant said, whole life I was selling cloth. I did not know if I could sell timber for this crematorium. I would have got a lot of money. My whole life I was just busy selling cloth. Just look, I am dying a beggar. If I had dealt in timber, I would have been a rich man. Such people, can never understand the verse of the Bhagavad Gita like this. Therefore, it is said here, one who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So this is the asura, the demonic consciousness. One who has a demonic consciousness, he is just snoozing, just, you can say, forgetting, just switching it off. He is going to get no change in his life. On the flip side, we have those people who have consciousness of a demigod. Arjuna is representing this mood here. That when Krishna instructs him after the whole of the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna told him, after Krishna instructed him, Krishna told him, okay, you can decide what you want to do. You want to fight or you don't want to fight. And Arjuna, remembering the instructions of Krishna, Arjuna decided to fight. This is the meaning of one who is switched on, one who is self-realized, one who accepts the instruction of the Shastra. One who is in the consciousness of a demigod or divine consciousness is always looking about the reality of life. What is behind the picture? What is the meaning of life? And the classical example of this is the example of Lord Buddha. He's saying Buddha, before he became enlightened, he was known as Siddhartha. That was his name, basically. And he grew up in a very royal way, as a prince. And his father wanted him to take over the kingdom. And his father was just always involving him in a very, you can say, very great life of opulence. Sitting on the throne, wearing and dressing in silken robes, eating in silver plates. Just, you can say, all about opulence. So one time Buddha decided he wants to go for a walk out of the kingdom. And when he went there, being, with one of his ministers or one of his associates, he saw in the village, in the city, there was somebody who was old. Buddha asked, who is that person? Because Buddha had never seen an old person. And his associate said, oh, that is an old person. Anyone who is born is sure to become old. Buddha thought, oh, this is something I have never seen. Then as they were walking, Buddha saw somebody who was struggling to walk and he was coughing. Buddha asked his associate, oh, what happened to him? Associate said, oh, this person, he's sick. Anyone who is born is sure to have illness. Buddha thought, oh, I have not seen this. And as they were going, they saw somebody who was being carried to be taken for his last rites. And Buddha asked, what happened to that person? Why is there a big crowd following him? And the associate said, oh, that is a person who has died. Anyone who is born has to also die. When Buddha saw this, Lord Buddha went back to his palace and he renounced everything. Because he thought that this life I'm living is a life of illusion. The life of birth, old age, disease, and death. That is the life of reality. So now the question comes, how do we move from the platform of Asura to the platform of Sura? Now this is the point. How do we move from the demonic consciousness to the divine consciousness? And this is only possible by the instructions of a sadhu, by the instructions of a guru, by the instructions of the Shastra. Arjuna was very lucky that Krishna, he was playing the part of his guru. The only way that we can move from demonic consciousness to divine consciousness is if we get the mercy of a sadhu. It is said, sadhu sanga sarva shastri koy, lava matra sadhu sanga sarva siddhi hoy. That even a fraction of a moment with a sadhu, this can transform someone's heart. This can transform someone's heart. If one just relates with the sadhu, one associates with the sadhu, one follows the instruction of a sadhu, this can change somebody's heart. Kirtika Mataji, how much time do we have left? I can't hear you.
We have time, Prabhuji. We
Okay,
have
so
time.
I
You
can
can
go
continue. Yes,
5
yes.
minutes, I can go.
Yeah. More also if you want.
Okay.
No, but you have to open up to questions also. Give enough time for questions.
I'll just speak another 5-7 minutes and then
10 minutes and then questions.
the instructions of a sadhu. This is what we were speaking about. The instructions of a sadhu can really change somebody. It said that one time, Narad Muni, he was going in the forest, and as he was going, he saw a deer that had been shot and was struggling, bleeding. And he thought, who is this person who killed this animal half, didn't kill it fully? As he was going on, he saw a bear there. The bear also half an arrow in the body and struggling. Then he met this hunter. The hunter was called Mrigari. He asked this hunter, why are you killing these animals in half? He said, this is the way I was taught by my father. This is my occupation. And by me seeing the animals struggling like this, I feel so much pleasure. This is the pleasure, this is the thing that gives me pleasure. And Narad Muni told him that by you doing so, you are going to get a lot of suffering. He said, it's better if you want to kill it fully, but don't give it pain. And then Narad Muni, he preached to him and showed him about all the suffering that he was going to get. When Mrigari the hunter, he heard this, he felt very remorseful, very regretful. And he asked Narad Muni, what should he do? Narad Muni, being the guru, he instructed Mrigari, please drop your bow and arrows, please break them. I will arrange for you to get food. And Narad Muni, when he told him this, Mrigari the hunter, he picked up his instruction with all his heart. And when the villagers heard that Mrigari the hunter had become pious, they just started sending him food. It is said later on, Narad Muni came to visit Mrigari the hunter. He came with another, you can say, sage who was called Parvat Muni. And when Mrigari the hunter saw Narad, he wanted to run towards Narad, but there were ants on the floor. And Mrigari the hunter started cleaning these ants because he did not want to create any harm. So we can see Mrigari the hunter used to kill animals, half, giving so much suffering. This was Asuric mentality. But by the association of a sadhu, just a single moment, small association, his heart changed. We also see similarly in the life of Srila Prabhupada. Before Srila Prabhupada went to America, all the hippies who were there, who later on became devotees, they were drug addicts. They were living a life, you can say, if today we go and see that life that they were living, we would not imagine something like that could have happened. What changed them? It was a miracle. And later on, when they just started following Srila Prabhupada's instructions and started performing sadhana bhakti, the principles of sadhana bhakti, this changed their heart. This is the power of a sadhu. So, one who can get the association of a sadhu is very, very fortunate. The last point that I wanted to mention is about how we are very fortunate in this age of Kali Yuga. It is said in the Vedic scripture that the body is compared to be like a boat. The captain is considered to be the guru or the teacher. And the waves that make the boat, you can say, move swiftly in the ocean is compared to be the Vedic scriptures. If we have a human body, I think so most of us who we are speaking here have human bodies. We have a human body. If we have somewhere where we can get association, and if we have the scriptures that we can read, if we do not take advantage of this, then we are really, you can say, wasting the greatest moment of life. And therefore, we have to understand that life has moved. It is said that life was simple when the apple and the blackberry were just fruits. Today, the apple is a phone. The blackberry is a phone. Life was simple when the blackberry and the apple was just fruits. So we have really upgraded ourselves. We have Snapchat, Facebook, Zoom, Instagram, Twitter. We have all those things. But if we miss the goal of life, with all this technology, with all this advancement, if we can have no detachment of heart, we can have no instruction, we can have no attachment for the instruction of sadhu and shastra, then we are really moving in the consciousness of a demonic platform. Then we should not be surprised that even as devotees, when we hear instructions like this from the Bhagavad Gita, that we cannot relate with them. When we read the Bhagavad Gita, we already know that there's death. We are devotees, we are practicing. But what is the lesson behind it that Krishna is always reminding us is for us to get ready for our own journey. And with all these favorable things in our life, if we can't really move into the association of godly consciousness, then we have lived just a bad bargain. So thank you very much. We'll stop here now and we take questions. In conclusion, we spoke about the prediction that Krishna has given about birth and death. We spoke about how Krishna being a friend. We gave the example of the three types of people, the snoozers, the sleepers, and the wakers. We spoke about the Asuric and the divine platform. And we spoke about how to use this body in Krishna consciousness. If anyone has any question, the platform is open. Hare Krishna.
Why not comments and criticisms?
Yes, Mansi, Ganga, Mataji, any comment or any criticism from you is always welcome.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. There is a question from Saurabh Suman.
Oh,
Prabhuji.
okay.
Saurabh Suman, Prabhuji.
Who is called a sadhu?
Please unmute yourself. I have tried to unmute everybody. Okay, till you are doing that exercise, the second question is from Mike Amore.
I can see the question from Saurabh here in the chat.
Okay.
The chat, he's written here, who is called a sadhu? Who is called a sadhu? This is the question he's posted on the chat group. So a sadhu is basically one who lives according to the injunction of the scripture. These days we think so that a sadhu is one who has a big beard, maybe he's smoking a biri and he has a begging pot and he's dressed in orange robes. Maybe a sadhu is one who can sit on his head, do a headstand. But a sadhu, who is a sadhu? A sadhu is one who follows the scripture. Or else a sadhu, this is what Lord Chaitanya, when he was asked. Lord Chaitanya was asked, who is a devotee? Lord Chaitanya said, anyone who chants Hare Krishna is a devotee, basically a sadhu. And then Lord Chaitanya said again, he was asked again, who is a sadhu? This is the second time he was asked. You can say the first time he was asked when devotees came. The second time after 1 year he was asked the same question. Who is a sadhu? Who is a devotee? And Lord Chaitanya said, anyone when he sees a devotee and he's reminded about Krishna, that person is a sadhu. If you see somebody and that person reminds you of Krishna, that person is a sadhu. So in the same connection, one time Srila Prabhupada was asked this question. I just remembered it. Srila Prabhupada was asked, Swamiji, how many pure devotees do you have in your movement? And then Prabhupada looked at his disciple. One of his disciples said, how many devotees do we have? And the devotee said, 10,000. And then Prabhupada said, we have almost 10,000 pure devotees. So anyone who follows the injunction is a pure devotee. That is a sadhu. Thank you.
Mike Kamore, can you please ask your
Hare
question?
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So my question is, earlier you had spoken about Krishna testing us. So I was just wondering, what is the difference between a test and a temptation?
It's a very nice question. Mike Prabhu, thank you. For those
Repeat the question again. I didn't get the two words.
I'll repeat the question. For those who don't know, Mike Prabhu, he is one of our training center. You can say he's one of the foundation members. He's one of the founding devotees, a very old devotee. Mike Prabhu asked the question, what is the difference between Krishna testing us or between a test and a temptation?
Oh, okay.
So how do we know if it is a test or it is a temptation? A test, basically Krishna is not going to give you a test that you are going to fail. And let's say you have a weakness. Let's say you have a weakness. And you fall down in that weakness. Let's say you see some money and you steal that money. Not rightfully, you get that money not rightfully. If you feel good about it, that means it was a temptation. It means you're building your karma. But if you feel regretful, that means it was a test. And that feeling of regretfulness, that feeling of feeling sorry, that feeling of feeling morose, that will make you advance. It does not mean that when you get a test, you will naturally always pass it. No. But whatever happens in your consciousness, if you feel, oh, I'm feeling so sorry, regretful, why did I do this? This means that test is actually given by Krishna because it is making you advance. Up to the point that one day when that temptation comes now, again, you will not be affected by it. You will see it and think, oh, this is not my cup of tea, basically. Okay?
Clear? I think a good explanation on that.
Any other questions?
Yes, it was clear. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
What? Everyone is saturated today. Too many are questions asked yesterday.
Today was story time. Everyone is looking at the bed.
Wow.
7 o'clock Kenyan time.
It's Aarti time.
Any other questions?
Okay, so can I point out?
Rachna Mataji has a question.
Okay.
Mataji, can you please ask your question?
Yes, Hare Krishna, Govinda Prabhuji. My question was the same, except with another attachment to it. Who is a sadhu, and how do we know that we are with one? Because as per your own knowledge level, you might always feel that the other instructor or teacher is much more advanced than us. Then does that person qualify to be a sadhu by simply having more knowledge than us? What are the, how do we find out who a sadhu is? How do we get to know?
Thank you very much, Rachna Mataji. Good to see you after a long time on this
Yes,
Zoom.
same here. Yes, yes.
So how would we know a sadhu? Is it that means that our teacher, because he has more knowledge than us, then he automatically qualifies to be a sadhu?
Yeah.
So in the Bhagavad Gita, it speaks about two things. One is Gyan and one is Vigyan. Gyan means knowledge, but Vigyan means knowledge in practice. If somebody just has knowledge, he can be a teacher. But if somebody is practicing that knowledge, then he becomes a sadhu.
Yeah.
This is what that Srila Prabhupada wanted. That the devotees don't only know the scripture, but they practice the scripture. So a sadhu is one who basically practices what he's speaking. He's walking the talk.
Yeah, very beautifully explained. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mataji, you want to say something?
Mansi Ganga Mataji?
No, I thought, sorry?
Yes, please speak.
No, I thought Madhvi and Ravi were coming with a question. No?
Hare Krishna?
Am I wrong? Yes.
Hare Krishna, sorry, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Govind, Prem, Prabhu. Please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the amazing class. Really insightful. We had a question actually. How can we deal with a person or a situation where they have, or the situation or the person has wronged us in any circumstances? Could you please elaborate? Thank you.
Oops.
Ravi Prabhu, thank you very much for your question. I hope you're okay there in the UK. So Ravi Prabhu is asking the question, how can we deal
Can
with
you introduce, Haibal, can you introduce who Ravi and Madhvi is? I was going to, so you do it.
Ravi and Madhvi are devotees from England.
Ravi and Madhvi. Ravi is Madhvi is Govinda's real sister, and Ravi is her husband. Haibal.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Ravi is my brother. Ravi is my
Hare
brother-in-law.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
And so he's asking me a question. I hope I've not wronged you. That's why you're asking the question.
No.
Ravi Prabhu is asking the question. So when someone wrongs you, what should you do? This is a very general question that has many answers actually. First, we have to see what is the intent of the person. If the person wronged us knowingly or unknowingly, we have to know the person. What was the intent? And if there's some confusion, before we act, we always have to consult a superior. Very important. Many times in life, when somebody provokes us, when someone wrongs us, we always want to take action in our hands. But even you can look you can even look at the example of Arjuna. I mean, how much the Kauravas wronged them, up to the point of disrobing their wife. But they never took anything on their own hands. They always consulted either Vidura, either Krishna, either Bhishma. There was always something about consultation. Up to the point that they wronged them so much that Arjuna, when he saw them, their faces, Arjuna felt sorry for them. If it was us today, and somebody has done like this to our wife, someone has taken our property, someone has burnt our house, someone has given us poison, if we meet that person face to face, we will not even wait for 1 second. We'll just charge and we want to go and fight with them. But look at the gentle nature. Look at the soft heart of Arjuna. Srila Prabhupada speaks in one of the purports in the 2nd chapter that this gentle nature, this softness of heart, this is the nature of a devotee. This is the nature of a devotee. That he is ready to forgive. Okay, I'm not saying if somebody is wronged in a very big way, better we go and ask for authority. You know, ask your authorities or ask for your superiors and they will guide you. But if it is small things, the more we can tolerate, the more we will have our taste in our chanting will increase. Lord Chaitanya says, that the garland of a devotee. What is that garland? The garland is the garlands of tolerance and humility. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi shahishuna amanina manadina kirtanya sadahari. The garland of humility and tolerance. The more we can tolerate, the more we are humble, the more we will get taste in chanting Hare Krishna. And who are we going to tolerate? Those people who are close to us when they offend us. Somebody who is not close to you, if he offends you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, somebody who's, just like you're walking on the street, he abuses you. That's no problem. But somebody who is close to you, the more they offend you, the more you can tolerate. That shows how much you are sadhu. Can I give one example if you don't mind? I know I don't want to go wrong, or go so much, take your time, but I would like to give a very nice example. The example of Bhrigu Muni. Bhrigu Muni was the son of Brahma. One time he wanted to test about, who is the, you can say, supreme or chief. And the example of Lord Vishnu was such great that if the devotees can really pick up this example, their life can be successful. He said Bhrigu Muni went, and he saw Lord Brahma with his 4 heads. And when he entered in the assembly, he immediately ignored Brahma. And Brahma became very upset. He said Brahma became very upset. Then he went to see Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva was covered with ash and things like that. He insulted Lord Shiva. Oh, you are living in a crematorium. All your associates are ghosts, And Lord Shiva even was a little bit agitated. Then he went to see Vishnu. And Vishnu was lying on this milk ocean with Lakshmi Devi massaging her. And what did Bhrigu Muni do? He kicked Vishnu on the chest. And what did Vishnu say? Oh, today I'm so fortunate that the Vaishnav's feet has touched my chest. This is Vishnu. So this is the consciousness we should have, the Vishnu consciousness, Krishna consciousness, the consciousness of always just seeing the good. Hare Krishna.
Can I
Thank
add?
you.
Vishnu actually said, oh, my chest is so hard, it must have hurt your feet.
Yeah.
Also. Yeah, that's the vision of sadhu. Sees good in everything.
Rachel Mataji has a question. Haribol. Rachel J.
Finally,
Rachel
Rachel Mataji.
Haribol,
Haribol.
can you hear me?
Yes.
we can hear you loud and clear.
So my question is, Govind Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. My question is, when you speak like this, Nadapi Sunichena, we always hear every morning that we should be tolerant, we have to be like Vishnu, and you are saying, but all this is on the philosophical level. So how do we make it into practice? We read this every day, we hear this every time, but when it's a situation to practice, then that's where the hard time comes. So how do we you understand what I'm saying? How do we put in into
Practice.
into practice? Yeah,
Great.
practice.
Yes.
Rachel Mataji, thank you for your sincere question. How do we put humility and tolerance into practice? This is basically a question. When somebody brings you a plate of prasad, and he puts the plate of prasad that has rasgulla, puri, nice sabji, paneer sabji, and cake. And what happens then? Are you practicing how to eat? Or do you just look at the plate and do you just think, okay, so where do I start from? Or how do I start? No, you just dive deep into it. Why? Because you are hungry. But if somebody is full, and you bring a nice plate of prasad, if he is a little bit controlled, he won't look at it. I'm just eating. So sometimes we chant Hare Krishna, we perform devotional service just for the sake of showing. You know, they say we put tilak just for the sake of showing. We put our neck bead just for the sake of showing. You know, we will chant, we'll finish our rounds, we'll put the bead back, we can't even remember where it is. You know, we have, you can say, like a double standard life. And we have to understand, we can cheat the whole world, but we cannot cheat Krishna. So there are two types of people practicing devotional service. There's one who is really practicing devotional service with his heart, really sincere feeling. And there's one who is practicing devotional service just for the show, just for the sake. For one who is practicing devotional service just for the show, just for the sake, he will get some benefit, but it will take a long, long time. But one who is practicing with a sincere heart, his progress will be immediate. Just like when you go to the doctor. You go to the doctor, you tell him your sickness, he gives you a diet and he gives you medicine. If you are really sick, you will take the medicine with a lot of, you can say, care, and you'll follow the diet with a lot of care. But if you are pretending to be sick, you might take the medicine once in a week, once in 2 weeks. How will you be cured? Therefore, His Grace Umapati Prabhu says this example. He says, one who is genuinely asleep, if you just make some noise, he'll be woken up immediately. But one who is pretending to sleep, a bomb will even explode and the person will not wake up. So that is a metaphor. So we should know, are we really genuinely we want to perform it, or we want to just pretend that we want to perform it? That is the answer. Hare Krishna.
Nice explanation.
I'm learning from
Esther wants to ask.
Sorry?
Esther.
Okay.
Yes,
Esther wants to ask.
please go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My question is, mostly sometimes I find that I'm doing like armchair philosophy, like I'm giving philosophy or I'm teaching philosophy, but myself, I don't believe in it. So I was just asking, all my actions don't tend to go hand in hand with the philosophy or what I'm supposed to preach. It might not be all of it, but sometimes I'm diverting from what's supposed to give. So is it that who is most benefiting? The one who is giving like such kind of information is true. I'm giving the true information, but myself, I'm a little bit diverting, or mostly I'm diverting. So the one who is hearing and can see my actions that they are sometimes not good. So who is more benefiting, or how do like you can just one side to the out.
Thank you very much, Esther Mataji. Your question, which is very good, is that sometimes we practice devotional service casually and at the same time we preach it. So who is benefiting? Is the person who is practicing or the person who is hearing? So the answer to this question is that the person who is speaking, because he is not speaking his own word, especially if he's reading from the books, he's quoting the books, he's giving examples from the scriptures. But at the same time, because his practice is a little bit, you can say, motivated, the hearer will only advance to the same limit of the speaker. The hearer will only advance to the same limit of the speaker. Therefore, it is said you should choose from who you hear from. Many people are speaking Bhagavad Gita. Before Srila Prabhupada went to America, there were so many types of Bhagavad Gitas, there were so many types. But why did Srila Prabhupada call his Bhagavad Gita as it is? Because the other Bhagavad Gitas that were there, not one single of them made anyone a devotee. But when Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita was being preached, many people got change of heart. So the more we follow, the more we speak, the more effect will be there. So it if the hearer is benefited, you can say to have association of somebody else higher, sometimes the less advanced person can even make more progress than the person who originally heard from, because he's getting highest source from someone else. You can say another practicing devotee. Therefore, we should always be very careful from whom we hear from. Any other question?
Hi, Bob. Can I interrupt? Isn't that bit contradictory from what Esther was trying to ask? My understanding is that the person is speaking, like you said walk your talk, and you answered Rachna's question also, that someone who's following, just not the Gyan part, the Vigyan part is a sadhu. And I think personally, that's what Esther was trying to ask, that here you sit on the Vyasasan and you're giving out all the best of knowledge, and yet you're not practicing. Esther, am I right?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So the point is, in one sense, it's a bit contradictory. What you said is like, then you choose who you're hearing. Initially, I mean, I was interrupted here, I missed a bit. But initially you're saying that, okay, whatever a person speaks from the scripture is correct, right? That can't be wrong. Like Srila Prabhupada explains about the postman and the post box, yes?
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, I mean, this just came to my mind, like the Nectar of Instruction explains that you can move from one person to another person for your instructions, right? Correct?
True.
Nod your head at least. So we know we are there. So the point, I personally feel that you can't say two things, that you be careful from who you're hearing, and at the same time say that whatever they're saying you have to accept. It has to be either or. I mean,
Okay.
it can't be either or. It has to be one.
I'll give you the example of a doctor.
You did?
I'll give you an example of a doctor. The doctor instructs the patient, and the doctor believes that the patient will stick with the doctor. So the one doctor can cure one patient. But if the patient does not have faith in the doctor, then the patient automatically will look for another doctor. So spiritual life is also like this. When we hear from the teacher, and if the teacher is practicing, and if the teacher is repeating the words of the Shastra, then the disciple, or you can say the follower, will make progress. And Srila Prabhupada was very, very keen to instruct especially his disciples. He would say, please do not go and hear from my God brothers. Why? Because not that they were not pure, but Srila Prabhupada was instructing them in some certain way. Just like before Srila Prabhupada went to America, women disciples were not allowed to get initiated. Women disciples are not allowed to live in the temple. But Srila Prabhupada, he changed all of those things. So when we hear, we have to hear from one person. If we keep on shifting, that is also shifting our consciousness. And as I said, our consciousness will only go to the limit of the person who we hear from. Therefore, we have to select our hearing. It does not mean we have to hear from anyone and everyone. But what we hear in the temple, or what we hear like this is, you can say, reading direct from the scriptures. When I say about hearing from one person, means like you can say in a daily time, like you have one, like you can have one person like who you're really hearing, or few people, 2, 3, hearing like this. But not like one day you're hearing from Hare Krishna, the other day you're going hearing from Swami Narayan, another day you go hearing from, Shiv Yoga, another day you go to Swami Bappa, another day you go to Christianity. Then you are going to get confused, basically. You have to select your hearing.
Haribol, Prabhuji. If I understood the question, I think Mataji was asking, now it is not the patient, it is the doctor. She feels like, for example, she is fat and she is advising the patient, you should exercise. She said, I don't believe some parts, and I am preaching that part, but I have not digested it, or I don't practice that. Am I right, Mataji?
Right. Which Mataji are you saying? Esther
Rachel,
or
Esther Mataji. Esther?
Yes, but the part of the teacher speaking, the teacher does not repeat his own word. The teacher repeats the word of the Shastra. This is the meaning of teaching. The
So even if you don't feel, if you don't feel, if you are not practicing it, but you are telling others, oh, you should chant, you should chant, you should chant. Is it okay?
That's what the
That
scriptures.
is what. Okay.
That's
So Esther Mataji, continue your good work as you also improve on your own abilities.
Any other questions?
Yes. I have a question here, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Oh,
Do you hear me?
Dear Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We can hear you, Mataji. Go on.
I have a question here, whereby the scripture says that one who was taken back is sure to die, and after death is sure to take birth again. So my question is, why do we fear death as devotees?
why do we?
fear death?
We fear death because this is not our permanent place. Why do we fear death? Because this is not our permanent place. That's why we have a lot of fear. And this fear is that is really given in every, you can say, species of life. You see, the bird is eating, the bird is looking left and right. Fear. A human being is walking, he hears any sound, he's very fearful. So much fear in the house. We have a security guard, we have a grill, we have electric fence, we have remote control, we have a room under the bed. So much fear. Why? Because this is not our place. The material world is not our home. This is not our permanent place. Therefore, we have fear.
Okay. Another question is on meditation, whereby we've been told meditation is among the highest bhakti yoga, devotional service. And again, we've been told that when you are chanting or you are doing meditation, one has to focus, whereby you have to be on a right position and have your eyes halfway closed. And maybe you cannot, if you cannot, maybe if you can close your eyes, you end up sleeping. So how can we, are we sure practicing this that we are our eyes on half closed?
You're asking about meditation. Me, I'll tell you about chanting Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
So meditation, you're speaking about when you're meditating, closing half eyes, you might go to sleep. So Krishna consciousness does not have any, you can say, hard and fast rules. If you can't sit and chant, walk and chant. If you cannot walk and chant, sit on a chair. Look for some time that is, that you're feeling suitable. And by practice, you will reach there. By practicing, you will reach in a position whereby you can sit and you can chant, with your eyes closed. It's all about practice. But there's no hard and fast rule. Krishna is not the God who is just looking at, oh, you chanted one round when you were sleeping, or you chanted one round when your eyes was half shut, or you were a little bit feeling sleepy. Krishna is not looking there just to look at our faults. No. Krishna is seeing, what is it that this devotee is trying to do for me? So there's no hard and fast rule. The more we practice, the more perfect we'll become.
Haribol Prabhuji, there is one more question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
So
Yes.
Yes, so the question is, so Prabhuji, are you saying if you are in Shiv Yoga, you cannot listen to Hare Krishna, as you just mentioned? Please elaborate.
Okay, thank you very much for your nice question. We have to understand that we have to be committed to one place. Because you're asking me the question, I'm going to tell you very frankly. We have to be committed to one place. We have to understand that Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Yoga, is one of the processes for self-realization. And in this age of Kali Yuga, it is the easiest process. And it accepts people from different backgrounds. Krishna consciousness, the art of Bhakti Yoga. It is like being you want to go on the top of the roof of a building. You can either use the stairs or you can use the lift. You cannot use the lift and the stairs. It's difficult. You cannot use the lift and the stairs. So
not difficult, impossible.
It's impossible, basically. So because one type of meditation will tell you this, the other type of meditation will tell you this. So in everything we do, we're always sticking to one person. If somebody is civilized, he's always sticking to one person. He's sticking to one school, he's sticking to one partner, he's sticking to one country, he's sticking to one, if you're a teacher, one teacher in school, you can't be in different schools. So if in everything in life we're sticking to one thing, why is it that when we're in spiritual life, we want to hear from everywhere? That will just bring confusion. So yes, other processes can also give self-realization as the question is going on. It is true, we are not saying no. But Krishna consciousness is something that is already tested, and the followers of Krishna consciousness, they speak only about Krishna consciousness because it is something which is tested and which is coming from the parampara system. This is very, very important. If you open the Bhagavad Gita, I think so it is on page 32, and I urge you to please do this. Look at the lineage direct from Krishna to Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes we might see some other processes, but we have to see what is the lineage, what is the parampara. Are they following that parampara? Are they in the lineage? If they are, if it is a different lineage, fine, there are 4 lineages. One is the Kumara Sampradaya, one is the Sri Sampradaya, one is the Rudra Sampradaya, and one is the Brahma Gaudiya Madhav Sampradaya, which the Krishna consciousness gives.
So Prabhuji, the devotee is still asking, Shiv Yoga is also a part of self-realization, but Prabhuji, it is also science beyond science, as you mentioned.
Yes, I'm not denying that it is science beyond science. It is definitely science beyond science. But we cannot mix the two. We have to follow one path. We have to follow one path. Otherwise, if we follow different paths, then we will have no commitment. We have to understand, spirituality is all about commitment. You can't take commitment from 2 schools. It's difficult. Even if how hard we want to try, we can't take that commitment because it takes a lot of endeavor to get the commitment from many places.
So she's still saying as much as Hare Krishna is spirituality, as well is Shiva Yoga.
Yes, I'm not denying, but I would urge for a question like this, it's better she goes to, the temple authority there, Mansi Ganga, she can go and sit with her and she can talk one-to-one and she can see. But according to the teaching of the Vedic knowledge, I would say you can only have one path that you follow.
Thank you, Prabhuji. There is a question.
Hare Krishna, just one minute.
Yeah.
Govinda said this should not be like a public discussion, but there is a very simple explanation on this, that Bhakti Yoga for Lord Shiva, Durga, anybody, all the demigods, Lord Shiva is on a very higher path. He's called Mahadev, not Dev. So he's on a higher level than the demigod. However, Lord Shiva is also meditating on Lord Ram, which means Lord Shiva is not the highest authority. And to be very honest, he himself would not be very happy because you cannot do bhakti for any demigods. Bhakti is only for the Lord. Bhakti can be done only for Krishna. The others we do puja, not bhakti. So this is a very simple explanation. that although we actually, Govinda is very good in shloka. Govinda, give that shloka. Yatanam Sambhu Vaishnavam.
Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu.
Yes. So that's the point, that Lord Shiva himself will direct you to be a Vaishnava because he's the Param Vaishnava himself. So how we did not like his followers to be doing bhakti for Lord Krishna. In one sense, he's the one who directs them to Lord Krishna.
Okay, any other questions?
There was, I think there was.
Mike Kamore wanted to ask a question. Mike
Yes, Hare
Prabhuji?
Krishna. Yeah, thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Prabhuji,
Krishna.
mine was pertaining Esther Mataji's argument. Is it true to say, well, according to my understanding, that about the guru that you're listening to and how to know who to listen to when, that depends according to your sincerity. And you see the desire to serve Krishna and this sincerity level, then automatically Krishna then takes you to the different steps of which guru to listen to and when. But that doesn't mean still that if maybe there is a guru giving class who is maybe just anybody, maybe like a neophyte devotee like me trying to give class, that you shouldn't attend, maybe if you're senior, because even Srila Prabhupada used to attend the classes that were being given by the neophyte devotees for the sake of, practicing to give and all, because still you gain something out of it. And secondly, I stand to be corrected. Secondly, pertaining to the question of if somebody wrongs you, then the way you tolerate the tolerance, basically, does it help teach or does it help the person who has wronged you to become better in one way or the other? Or would you please elaborate more about that, like the way Bhrigu Muni, the other sages or the other brahmanas, they learned from the way Lord Vishnu reacted to Bhrigu Muni's stepping on his chest. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mike Prabhu. So the first question about relating to Esther's question, that when a junior is giving class, this means a senior should listen, and what's the standard basically. So we have to understand that whatever goes on as a program, as a satsang, in Sanskrit it's called satsang, is inspiration. So like temple programs, Bhagavatam class, Bhagavad Gita class, something like this on Zoom, this we're discussing scripture basically. It's like enlightenment, or you say get together. So this is general, we have to hear, our attendance is needed. But it does not mean that we can only just take this sadhu sangha, online sadhu sangha, and not have a personal devotee to instruct us. And many times we have this problem whereby we have a shiksha guru or we have a diksha guru just in name only. Just in name. You have a guru, but the guru doesn't even know your name. You don't even know the guru's name. You've met the guru only once. You have no relationship with the guru. The guru doesn't know your problems. Then what is the point? When we have a guru, a shiksha guru, a diksha guru, we have to have a personal relationship whereby they can guide us. And when we have any faults in us, we have to go and open to the guru. That is what we were talking about. But generally like this in classes and everything, that one we have to hear from everybody, because they are repeating what the Shastra is saying. That was the first point. The second point about, you can say, being tolerant. You can repeat that question.
Mike Prabhuji, can you please repeat the question?
The second
Hare Krishna. So the second question was you explained that you should be about the small offenses, the small wrongdoings that people do us. It's good to tolerate. You explained something about tolerance. So as you tolerate the small question, as in the small wrongdoings, then my concern was how you help the person who's doing you wrong. Is it by tolerating, or is it just automatic that your tolerance will help the person who is doing you wrong?
This is a very nice question you're asking. How is it that you should help the other person when the person is criticizing you or fault finding in you? So sometimes the help can come, you can say, in many ways. When the person is always criticizing you, he can see, oh, this person is not moved, maybe I'm causing him harm, or I'm criticizing him. He can get a change of heart. It can come as a revelation. He can feel, oh, I want to imbibe the same nature. If he's lucky. That was one. The second one was that if he's criticizing you always, then Krishna can interfere in his life. And Krishna's, you can say, intervention can happen, that person will get some heavy reaction. Like we can see the example of, was it Shishupal, who was criticizing Krishna? And I think so he criticized Krishna, blasphemed Krishna for some amount of time. Was it 100 or something?
100.
100 times. 100 times, and then Krishna came and I think so he chopped off his head or something. But we have to understand where is the story of the scorpion and the sadhu. There's that story. And all these stories are reflective. That one time there was a sadhu who was like trying to fetch water, and when he put his bucket in the river with his hand, the scorpion used to bite him, keep on biting him. And so there was a nearby person looking at him. And then you see the sadhu always being bitten and trying to save the scorpion, with a bucket. And then again he throws back the scorpion. And somebody questioned, whenever you're touching the scorpion, it is biting you. And the sadhu said, the scorpion has its nature, and me as a sadhu, I have my nature. So sometimes it doesn't mean that if someone is always criticizing you, the best thing, you can ask someone to talk to him, or you can talk to him once, but if he goes on, doesn't mean then you start praying, I pray to Krishna, this person, you get a big, massive fall down, so he should know his offenses, because of his offenses to me, that's why he's suffering. No, you just leave him, it's okay, it's not like he's harmed you. You know that he's harmed you, you can just leave him. When Srila Prabhupada was on the planet, it's not that Srila Prabhupada, people never used to criticize him. People used to criticize him. Philosophers used to criticize him. Spiritualists used to criticize him. But Prabhupada, they just used to go on. The example is given of the elephant and the dog. When the elephant is walking, the dog is barking. But the elephant now, if he starts standing and thinking, oh, this dog is barking at me, the elephant just keeps on walking. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I think it's quite late there. It is now 7:41 here, and it must be past 10. Past 10 o'clock, 10:15 in India. So we are really, really, really grateful for your association, Prabhuji. We really enjoyed your talk. We are not yet satisfied. So if you can come again, we would really appreciate. We will try to, like we usually have it at 8 o'clock, but whenever you can come, we can play around the time over the weekends. Prabhuji, we really enjoyed the talk, and I speak for all my colleagues. We were 33 participants.
This talk was because of Mansi Ganga Mataji's birthday. That's why I committed myself.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We can have a birthday again. We can have a birthday again. We don't mind.
Happy birthday. Yes.
Thank you very much for your attendance and giving me this service and helping me to purify myself. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
One. Can I add one thing?
Aye.
Something I really learned from Govinda today. I did Bhakti Shastri. I've been hearing Bhagavad Gita class for 40 years. However, a point he brought out was amazing today, which I never realized, is that Krishna, he said how I always say, you pay to the psychiatrist just to go there and pour out yourself. And he mentioned this point, how Krishna just heard and heard and heard and heard Arjuna going on, why I should not fight, the compassion, this, that, and the other. And he heard until that 11th chapter of second chapter, 11th verse. He did not butt in. I thought, wow, that was a very, very powerful realization and observation. I think it's very original, Govind. Am I right? Govinda, are you there?
Everything belongs to Krishna because he's the only original.
Yeah, okay. However, I've never heard that point. I was so impressed that, it's such a powerful point that's what friendship, we were talking about Surit also. A friend means he will listen to you carefully, try to understand, and then try. That's what Krishna did, and help. That's why it's also said, you only advise people who surrendered to listening to you, isn't it? Yes, Govinda, Prem, Prabhuji?
True.
All right, we'll let you go. Thank you for your sacrifice, Govinda.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Everybody can say Hare Krishna as Prabhuji leaves.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Namaste.